let's go to tech as our usual guest in Tech Talk is Matt Dickerson, who seems to be back from the home of ancient technology, Egypt, and back to talk with us. G'day, Matthew. How you going?
Yeah, good, thanks, Nick. Good to be back home from the, as you say, the land of ancient technology and have real technology where internet access is a bit better and I can rely on the signal a bit more.
Oh, that's good. Okay, let's first of all talk about tech becoming valuable many years later. Someone just paid over $39,000 for a 15-year-old iPhone.
And the
Please
most
explain.
disappointing part about this is they hadn't actually used it, Nick. It was still in its original
But
box.
that's what makes it valuable. It's like Star Wars creatures, isn't
That's
it?
right. It's like comics. I've got a friend that collects comics and I want to read them, but they're all sealed in their original packaging. So this person was smart enough way back in 2007. He probably bought an iPhone for himself. He paid US $5.99 for a phone and thought, you know what, I'm going to stick that in the cupboard and 15 years later I might roll that out. And it's been worth it for him. For $39,000 for a little $599 investment all those years ago, it's obviously been worth it. Now, who knows if it works or not? I would suspect the battery in it probably wouldn't work anymore if you did take it out.
What,
and
it might leak or something like a lot of
I think
batteries do.
the batteries eventually get to the stage where the batteries stop working, especially when they've got no charge in them. So I suspect if we replace the battery, everything else would work fine. But it wouldn't be that exciting, Nick. When you look at the specs of an iPhone from 2007, 8 gigs of memory compared to modern phones now. I've got, say, up to a terabyte of memory. It had a 2 megapixel camera, only took photos, no videos, and only one camera. How could you take your selfies back then compared to modern phones with three
Really?
cameras?
The original iPhone didn't have the selfie camera.
Didn't have the front-facing
You had to
selfie
turn
camera.
it around and make a guess about whether it was pointing at you or not.
Exactly right, or grab some stranger and say, can you please take a photo of me and hope they didn't run away with your phone. So, and it didn't take videos as well. So those little cameras on them, they didn't have enough processing power on the phone to actually be able to handle videos compared to now. They can take 4K videos, 60 frames per second, even 120 frames per second. So there's a fair difference there. So anyone that bought this, the only reason I can think they'd want to buy it is because they wanted to show off how much money they had and put it on the shelf and say, look at that phone I paid 39 grand for.
I mean, I know people do that with certain Macintoshes in particular. If they're in pristine condition, the tiny little Mac box, I had one of those. God, I wish I'd have kept it.
That's right.
If they're in working condition these days, they go for thousands of dollars.
Oh, they would, especially, as you say, if it was in that original packaging, still sealed, still like it just came out of the factory. And people collect things, and good luck to them if they want to spend their money on that. But I would rather see people use their phones rather than stick it in a box and put it away for 15 years.
Amazing. All right, let's go to some other tech, which this is one that's a big one because in the Illawarra, we've got a potential huge wind farm to generate electricity being built off the coast. And a lot of critics will contact me saying, well, you know, we still need steel to build all these wind turbines, and steel needs coal, and that's where the BlueScope factory comes in. But we've got a new story about a wind turbine that's not only smashed an energy record, it's recyclable. What's the story?
Yeah, and let's go the first part first, Nick. It has broken a world record. It's generated 359 megawatt hours in a 24-hour period. And that mightn't mean much to some people, so let's break it down a bit. That's enough to power 18,000 homes, or if you're into your electric vehicles, 60,000 electric vehicles. We don't have 60,000 electric vehicles in Australia. So one wind turbine would be enough to power all the electric vehicles we have in this nation. So it gives you an idea of just how good wind turbines are. And of course, yes, I hear the same thing that you're talking about there. People say, oh no, you're destroying the planet in all this mining you're doing to create these wind turbines. And what are you going to do in 25 years' time? Well, there's a couple of things. The metal that's used for the stanchion, the shaft that is all mounted on, all that made of steel can be melted down again and made into something else. But they're probably not going to do that. They're probably going to leave it sitting there because they might replace the gearbox or replace the generator. The actual turbines themselves, the propellers, if you like, they're the part that people often talk about not being recyclable. But this particular one has got those blades that are made out of 100% recyclable resin. So again, after they're finished with in 25 years' time, or they come up with better designs, those can be broken down and used again for another wind turbine or something else. So they are recyclable.
Recyclable resin. So that's interesting. So we're talking a plastic in the same way as they turn water bottles into fleecy vests?
Well, they actually make them out of a resin that can have another chemical applied to it to break it down to the core components and then be used again. So it's something that's happening more and more now, and it may not even be used for another blade. It may be used for something different. But the problem is, in the past, when they made them out of fiberglass, that fiberglass was a bit tough to do something with, because once you've set that fiberglass in its shape, it doesn't really break down that well. But even if that was the case, Nick, even if you had to throw away the blades, we're still better off doing that than pumping coal into a coal-fired power station and burning that and spewing all that up into the air. So even that argument falls down. But when you get to the stage where the turbine blades themselves are recyclable, the metal in it's recyclable, wow, you start to get a very efficient solution. And that whole renewable energy solution, we're going to need more of this. We're going to need more solar panels, more wind turbines. And you start to get facilities then that have got wind turbines and solar and batteries as part of the one whole facility, so that you know that out of that, you're going to be able to provide consistent supply of electricity to the market.
Right. Okay. Did that contribute to the fact that it got this world record energy production?
No, it was just
the blades are lighter, or was there something else within the turbine's system that helped it to generate that amount of electricity?
it was just big. So basically,
Big. Oh, well, there we go. All right.
they're getting bigger and
Simple as
bigger.
that.
And the offshore ones are the bigger ones because they've got fewer things to worry about in terms of when you put them on land, you can't make them quite as big. So some of the ones offshore now, you're getting that diameter of blade spinning about 180 metres. Now that's pretty big, but there's also good consistent wind supply offshore. So that's where they're often putting them offshore. It's complicated getting the power from offshore back to the land where you need it, but it's worth it because you do get that better production. So 359 megawatt hours. I know there's some wind turbines out around where we are, where each turbine generates enough power for maybe 3,000 homes. So this is about 6 times bigger than those ones that are near where I live.
Ooh, that is absolutely huge.
Yeah.
All right, very good to talk to you as always, Matt. We'll do it again next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, Nick.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Matt Dickerson, who has the podcast Tech Talk, which you can download anytime you like for nothing. He's a futurist and tech commentator, and enjoying having him on.